even when people are exposed to having less than stellar character, but if they display any sort of supernatural, I don't even know what the word I'm trying to say, but they model any sort of supernaturalness, people just overlook everything just to get to that. Right? I see it all the time. It's like just people just what's the word? They compartmentalize it, right? It's like, I'm so desperate for God. I'm so desperate to be healed. I'm so desperate to get a word from God. I'm so desperate for God to touch me or whatever. I don't really care if he slept with so and so. You see what I mean? It's this, and it gets back to I know I keep saying this phrase, but I just see it everywhere. The end justifies the means. It's like, it's not like we have these core values, morals, and ethics, right, that govern us. It's the need that drives us. And we'll actually compromise our morals, values, and ethics to fulfill the need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, and it's sort of, and so when I look at that and I see that, I just, I think of what Jesus did when he looked, at the masses. It's like it says he knew what was in their hearts. That's why he didn't give himself to them, right?
Yeah.
It's like Jesus understood the crowd. It's like, and I think Jesus dealt with that. It's like, work us another miracle, Jesus, right? Do another signs and wonder, Jesus. It's like I think Jesus understood the people were following him because they were just desperate.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think half the time they even understood what he was talking about. I think Jesus is better understood in hindsight.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it makes sense later. It probably didn't make a whole lot of sense at the moment, because people are like, I'm hungry, feed me, right? I'm broken, mend me.
Yeah.
The need drove it. And I look at it now and I see the same thing in these churches. It's like the need. So that's where my heart, that's why I don't get real judgmental about it, because it's just like, let's just see this pain in people, this desperation, this need, right? And they'll just do whatever. They'll rip the roof off to get healed, right?
Yeah. It's a problem that whenever the men get into this position where the people start regarding them as a seer or a prophet, and maybe they have had some insight. Who knows? I'm not going to say that they didn't, but say that the people accept that they did. Well, then they begin to expect it. And as a human, the human wants to feed that need for those people. So, we've had this conversation offline, and ironically, I've had the same exact conversation with probably 10 people who knew Paul Cain at this point.
Yeah.
You get into this rhythm of you have to come up with something, and what do you come up with? And these guys are doing things like,
right? What's going on there, right? There's an expectation put on these guys.
Absolutely.
And it's coming from two directions, right? It's like, so if you're a Paul Cain or a Bob Jones or any one of these guys, you are stuck on a stage. Like, and this gets back to even how we do church and why we do, right? It's like there's this whole model. That's one of the things I'm wrestling with in the book, right? It's like our whole model of church, this whole idea of a stage and an audience, right? Because it creates all kinds of vulnerabilities. So now you're sticking a guy out there, right, who's got a perceived gift.
Yeah.
And he's actually sandwiched. And he's sandwiched because in front of him is 5,000 people all going, work us a wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Show us the supernatural, right? So he's got a whole audience out there. Sitting behind him is a whole group of leaders going, work us a wonder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Reaffirm who we are, right? We need a big offering. I actually had somebody send me an email the other day. It's crazy, but it's Mike telling Paul Cain that if he'll come here and prophesy to people, he can make lots of money.
I don't doubt it.
Right? But you see the pressure? So again, I know people want to vilify a Bob Jones, or they want to vilify a Paul Cain or whatever. I see it differently. I see this as these poor, insecure human beings, you know what I mean, that are so desperate to be loved, who might have something unusual going on. There's no doubt about it, right? There's something odd that's different that these guys have, and yet we're putting him out there. I think I told you this story of a supposed prophetess who got caught putting gold dust in her Bible. And when she was confronted with it, her argument was, well, I need to get the audience into faith. So as we've discussed, this may be interesting for your audience, but most of the charismatic Pentecostal Latter Rain guys all had a worldview, and the worldview was, or their theology was, faith unlocks the supernatural. So therefore, the object of the exercise is to get the audience into faith. Well, if God's not moving, right? If there's not something already there, what they did was they faked it.
Yeah.
And the justification was, if we can fake it and get the people to believe, they'll be in faith. And so the end justifies the means. So there was this whole thing that entered into the ministry world, and it's everywhere, and I see it all the time now, is the end justifies the means. We can cheat on the front end because it'll all work out on the back end, right? And I think that's gotten it's so infiltrated the ministry mindset that I think we're in a dangerous place right now. Because I keep seeing it everywhere, right? I keep seeing this, like, we're gonna present something, and if we can just get everybody over here.
Yeah. It's a complicated problem because, like you said, these people, they had something, whether it's a mental health issue or whatever it is, they had something that was inspiring them to do this. Then they got up to the next level, and it was like they had to feed the need of doing it. And there come a point in which the conscience became seared, because once a person gets to the level where they are knowingly misleading people, there's a point in which your conscience is telling you, don't do this, this is wrong. But because of the stage act and all of the people feeding on it, there came a point in which the conscience just was completely shut off. I'm going to continue doing this. And like you said, I can tell you sermon after sermon titles from Branham where he's saying exactly that. You got to get into the faith, and that unlocks the door for these great miracles and prophecies and whatnot. But there's on my website, if you type in, I think it's Darren Brown, you can find, there's this famous atheist who creates a fake stage act of a faith healer, gets all of these people in here. He is an atheist, but he's doing the same exact rhythm, style, charisma. And there are people who are actually getting healed in his meeting. And at the end, he calls them all in the room and he says, look, this whole thing was fake. I just wanted to show you. Well, you couldn't even convince them that they didn't get healed. So there's this element where it's almost like a numbers game. You get a bunch of people in a room. Well, 1 out of 10 is going to have something happen.